This is English shorthand dictation number 211 and the dictation speed is 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I am glad that our lady member thought it fit to bring forth this adjournment motion. I am glad because it gives me an opportunity to explain to the House a matter which has been weighing very heavily on my mind. I do like to say at the very outset that I regard this decision of the Government of India as a great misfortune. I am not happy about it. All that I am saying is that given the circumstances in which the Government of India was forced, I do not regard that this is a mistake on our part. I think the House will understand the distinction that I am making. The debate to which I have listened has rather impressed me that the lines on which most of the honorable members have spoken have been mostly of a humanitarian character. They have been, in my humble judgment, greatly removed from what I would call the plane of reality. When I speak in this debate, I propose to stick to what I call the realism of the situation. I would also like to say that many points have been brought in during the course of the debate as though they were the points on which the decision of the House was called for. I would particularly say that reference was made to the wages prevalent in the coal mines. Reference was also made to the prevalence of unfair welfare conditions in the coal mines, and I shall have something to say about them in the course of the observations that I will make. But I think I am justified in saying that having regard to the terms of the motion, these are rather incidental matters and not matters on which the House is called upon to record its judgment. Having made these preliminary observations, the first point that I would like to make is that some honorable members have given the impression that the Government of India was never serious with regard to this convention of preventing women working underground. Sir, I would like to make a few observations on the point in order to put the matter in the right perspective. The House will recall that the Government of India had accepted the principle of prohibiting women working underground long before the convention came into existence. The matter was first debated when the Government of India brought in a bill for the amendment of the Indian Coal Mines Act. I would like to remind the House that the original purpose of the bill was very limited one. It was a purpose merely to introduce safety measures in coal mines. But when the measure was taken to the Select Committee in its judgment thought that the Government of India ought to go forward and claim powers in the Act in order to prohibit the working of women underground. In the Select Committee, the Government of India accepted the principle. Not only did the Government of India accept the principle, but it framed regulations with the definite and deliberate object of eliminating women laborers from working underground. As the House will know, the Government of India had laid down a definite program of annual decrease in the number of women laborers working underground. So much so that 2 years before the ratification took place in this House, we had no woman laborer working in the mines under the policy of the Government of India. Sir, that fact was referred to by the honorable mover of the motion, but I was sorry to find that she did not draw the obvious inference that the Government of India, long before the convention came into existence, has been very definitely of the opinion that women should not work in the mines and has taken definite steps to bring that state of situation to a close. The Government of India has been blamed for lifting the ban now on the supposed ground that there has been no justification. I must confess that I was rather surprised at a statement of that kind. Sir, I would like to point out to the House two considerations, and I would beg of the House to consider whether the 2 points that I am placing before them do not constitute what I regard as an emergency. Sir, the lifting of the ban on women working underground has a direct reference to coal. That is an undeniable fact. I would like the honorable members of the House to consider whether coal could not be called a strategic material from every point of view. I ask the House to consider whether it is not a strategic material from the standpoint of the industry, whether it is not a strategic material from the standpoint of transport, whether it is not a strategic material from the standpoint of civil consumption. I want to emphasize the fact that we are not dealing with an article the use of which we could avoid at our option. It is a thing which we must have, and I submit that it is a thing which we must have before we have food or before we have anything else. That is one point I want the House to consider. The second point that I want the House to consider is this: would it have been possible for the Government of India to wait until the situation had righted out itself? I know very well, as most honorable members know, that coal would have been produced in the ordinary course. It may not have been produced in 1943. It may not have been produced in 1944, but it may have been produced in 1945. But the question which I would like the House to consider is whether it is a case in which we could wait. Is it a case in which we could allow the natural course of things to take place? Sir, I would like to say that this is one of those cases which is of such urgent and immediate importance that steps may be taken, and a government which does not take the steps to correct the situation immediately is not a government worthy of its name. Therefore, let us not forget that we are dealing with an emergency, and the lifting of the prohibition from allowing women to work underground is not an idle act on the part of the government, but is an act which is amply justified by the facts and circumstances of the case. Therefore, sir, the conduct of the government must be judged in the light of the emergency. I would request honorable members to judge the conduct of the government in the light of these two circumstances only. Has the government failed to do something which it ought to have done? Has the government done something which it was needless for it to do? My submission is that judging it in the light of these two considerations which I have mentioned, I have no hesitation in saying that the government's action is perfectly justified. My honorable friend Mr. Joshi said that this was a convention which could not have been broken.